Okay, so we're diving into The Teacher. This thriller you all have been
Oh,
requesting.
yeah. This one's a good one.
You've given us some excerpts.
Yeah.
And wow, this story is like a tangled web. Secrets and suspense. We've got a missing teacher, a rocky marriage, and a student with a really dark past.
Definitely a page turner.
So first we have to look at Eve Bennett, the missing teacher.
Okay.
Her marriage to Nate, who's also a teacher at the school, it's not good. Not good at all. She feels neglected, suspects he's cheating,
Yeah.
and she ends up having an affair with Jay, the manager of a shoe store.
Interesting.
And that detail about the shoes, it's not just random. You know what I mean? Like, it says a lot about her.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
It's like the shoe store is this symbol for her of escape. I mean, it's not even just retail therapy. She's craving something that's missing in her marriage. Passion, excitement, even like self-worth.
Right.
Remember that scene with her 30th birthday dinner?
Yes.
Nate just doesn't care. And then she gets that text from Jay. The author gives us all these clues, little by little, to show us Eve's emotional state.
Yeah, it's like watching a pressure cooker about to explode.
Totally.
Then there's Addie, a high school student with this big secret. She pushed her abusive father down the stairs. He died. And her best friend at the time, Hudson, saw the whole thing.
Wow.
So this trauma, it affects everything about Addie, her relationships, everything.
Right. It's not just backstory,
Yeah.
It's this open wound. Like we see it in how she is with her mother and how Hudson avoids her.
Right.
The author does a great job of showing how isolating that kind of burden can be.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So you immediately feel bad for her,
Yeah.
but also suspicious of her.
Exactly. Okay, so then we get to the disappearance itself. Eve vanishes after a fight with Nate.
Mm-hmm.
The police obviously think something's wrong. And guess who becomes a suspect?
Let me guess. Addie.
Addie. Because of what happened with that other teacher, Art Tuttle, who was falsely accused, by the way,
Right.
of being inappropriate with her.
It's smart how the author uses that to make us suspicious of her.
Yeah.
But it's not only her past. Eve thinks she saw Addie outside her house the night she disappeared.
You mean that creepy scene in the driveway?
Yes, where Eve thinks someone's hiding in the bushes. It's like the author's leading us down a path, making us question her every move.
It's like they are setting a trap for us, and we're walking right into it.
Totally.
Then the story takes this dark turn, and we see who's really the predator, Nate. He and Addie start this messed up relationship, and it gets really inappropriate really fast.
Yeah, the author peels back the layers there and shows us Nate's true colors.
Like manipulative, right.
Exactly. He uses Addie, takes advantage of her. She admires him, and they connect over their shared interest in Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, wow.
It's that classic story of an adult abusing their power.
It makes you wonder how deep this manipulation really goes.
Right. And remember, everyone here's hiding something. Like, we see that most clearly in how Nate treats Eve and Addie. He keeps seeing Addie, even though he knows Eve thinks it's her sneaking around their house. Instead of just talking to Eve about it, he makes her feel crazy. Like she can't trust her own instincts.
Yeah, it's infuriating.
He isolates her, makes her feel insecure. And at the same time, he's making Addie more dependent on him.
It's classic emotional abuse.
Exactly. And it makes your skin crawl. It's a reminder of how abusers work. They use these subtle ways to break you down, and then they control the whole story. And then there's that part where Addie's locker is full of hair removal cream.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Awful.
So cruel and humiliating.
It seems like it was Kenzie, the cheerleader,
Right.
because of her comments about Addie's body hair. But something about it felt off.
Yeah.
We know these narrators aren't reliable, and the author never actually says it was Kenzie.
Right. It feels like a red herring to distract us from the real person behind it all.
Yeah, maybe the author is playing with us, setting us up for some big reveal later.
Maybe.
Speaking of shocking, let's talk about Eve escaping. She's buried alive, and she claws her way out of that grave.
It's a crazy scene.
Yeah.
Horrifying, but also like, wow.
Talk about survival instincts.
The author really puts us right there with her. Like, you can feel how desperate she is.
Yeah.
But it's not just surviving. It's like she comes out of that grave a different person.
She's like, I want revenge.
Exactly. And she's not messing around.
Yeah.
She gets Jay to help her. And they come up with this plan to show everyone what Nate really is.
So the novel goes from a thriller to a revenge story.
Yeah, and Eve's transformation is amazing. She goes from victim to, like, taking charge. Remember that scene where she confronts Nate? Like, She demands he tells Addie the truth.
Oh, yeah. That was intense.
Like she wants to break the spell he has over Addie.
Yeah.
She sees how badly Nate has hurt this girl.
It's not even just about revenge for herself. It's about protecting Addie.
Exactly. It's anger and betrayal, but also wanting to protect Addie from more pain. Eve's not letting him control them anymore.
And then it gets worse. Eve goes to the high school and sees Nate and Addie kissing in his classroom.
Oh, man.
Like right out in the open.
That scene is huge.
Yeah.
It shows us how much he's betrayed Eve.
Yeah.
And that he thinks he can get away with anything.
It's so arrogant. And the way Addie defends him, like she doesn't even see it.
That's how manipulation works. Nate's made himself out to be her savior. Like, he's the only one who gets her. So she doesn't see who he really is.
Right. He's trapped her in his lies. And then it escalates. Eve confronts him at home. They fight. He hits her over the head.
Oh, gosh.
That's where the violence gets really scary. It shows that Nate is dangerous.
It's terrifying. You're just holding your breath, wondering what's next. And then he drags Eve out to the car. Like she's dead. And Addie's there, too. It's so disturbing. It shows you how much power he has over them both. He's using them, playing on their weaknesses to get what he wants.
The author just takes us there. We're watching this horrible thing happen, and then we go to that scene at the pumpkin patch. This place that should be fun. And it becomes the setting for something awful.
It's like that contrast really messes with you.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. And so many questions. Nate says he didn't kill Eve. He says Addie did. But why would Addie say she did it?
I know. It's like this big question hanging over everything. Maybe Addie, with everything she's been through, is just easy to manipulate. Maybe Nate's using her guilt and fear, making her believe she's responsible, even if she isn't.
That's what abusers do. They shift the blame. They twist the story to protect themselves.
Exactly. And it makes you see how easy it is to take advantage of someone who's vulnerable. Then there's that part where Addie remembers the marks on Eve's neck.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe she wasn't dead when Nate left her in the kitchen.
What do you think that means?
It's like the author's giving us a little clue, making us wonder what really happened. Addie's memory is fuzzy. But that detail about the marks, it changes everything. Maybe Eve woke up and they struggled, and then she died. Maybe Nate killed her. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe Addie did it to protect herself. We don't know.
Like the author's teasing us. And then Nate just leaves Addie to fill the grave. He drives off and leaves her at the pumpkin patch.
Yeah. It shows you how little he cares about her. He used her, and now that he doesn't need her anymore, he dumps her.
Like he's erasing her from the story.
Exactly. Trying to get away with it. But then we see Nate at home. He's acting like the worried husband. Even thinks about calling the police to report Eve missing.
Classic sociopath.
Right. No remorse. Just trying to look innocent.
You never know who you can trust.
Right. And then Detective Sprague shows up.
Oh, yeah.
And drops a bomb. She talked to Addie. And Addie says she was with Nate the night Eve disappeared.
Oh, wow.
Nate's plan is falling apart. He's not in control anymore.
It's like the hunter's about to become the hunted. So it's like the walls are closing in. But remember all that weird stuff happening at Nate's house? Like the lock on Addie's locker was cut. Then there was that blue shoe in his kitchen. Seemed like Addie was trying to frame him, right?
It did, didn't it? I mean, Addie's obviously a mess, thinks it's all her fault. But that shoe, that was Eve's favorite, remember?
Right.
Feels like too much of a coincidence, like it means something.
It's like Eve sending him a message, you know, oh, I'm not really gone, something like that.
Yeah, like she's leaving clues, telling him she's still in control, even though he thinks she's dead.
Okay, but then it gets even weirder. Nate goes to that pumpkin patch, and Eve's grave, it's empty, and then later he finds a dead crow in his kitchen.
So creepy. Is that Eve messing with him? Is she actually alive?
Oh, that symbolism is definitely intentional. The crow, that's like Edgar Allan Poe's thing, right?
Yeah.
It means death, usually, and revenge. And Eve knows all about Poe because of Nate.
Right.
So it's like she's using his own, like, obsession against him.
Oh, that gives me chills. But if Eve is alive, how did she get out? What's she trying to do? Well, the book doesn't really say how she escaped, but we can guess. Remember, Addie wasn't sure how deep the grave was. Plus, she was exhausted. Who knows what she was thinking? So maybe Eve woke up in the grave, realized it wasn't that deep, and just dug herself out.
Okay, yeah.
And as for what she's planning, it seems like she wants to ruin Nate. Destroy his life and career, everything.
And it's working. He's totally paranoid, jumps at every little sound.
Right, like he's living in a nightmare, haunted by Eve, even though she's, dead.
It's like he's being buried alive by his own guilt. But wait, it gets crazier. The story jumps ahead a few years, and now Addie's in therapy. and she tells the therapist the truth. She and Nate had an affair, and he killed Eve.
Whoa.
But get this. Eve's lover, Jay, helped her fake her death and frame Nate.
Wow. That's a huge twist. We thought Addie was the killer all along, right?
Yeah.
We totally underestimated Jay, just like Nate did.
He was the mastermind,
Right.
quietly pulling all the strings behind the scenes.
Exactly. The author totally tricked us.
And there's something, satisfying about how Eve got her revenge. Nate didn't just suffer, he lost everything. His job, his reputation, maybe even his mind.
Exactly. And it was all because of someone he thought he could control. Those who manipulate others often end up trapped in their own lies.
That is so true. What a crazy story. This deep dive into the teacher has been insane. This thriller really keeps you guessing.
Yeah, it makes you question everything about the characters, their motives, everything.
It shows you how dark people can be and how far they'll go to protect themselves or the people they care about.
And this deep dive, this is just the beginning. There's so much more to this novel, like the characters and how they relate to each other, and the themes of trauma, betrayal, all of that.
So we encourage you to read The Teacher for yourself, get the whole experience. But be warned, it's intense. You might not sleep well after.
Definitely.
It'll stay with you. And while you're reading, think about this. How well do you really know anyone? And what would you do if you were pushed to your limit?